The Russian elites don't actually care about ideology anymore. They only care about money. So they're not usually too concerned when their experimental test subjects go missing and end up at Paracelsius group auctions. Indeed, it wouldn't surprise me if the Russian elites had some kind of stake in the Paracelsius group auctions of their own experimental test subjects. So it's all very interesting to consider this theory that the Russian elites are actually profiting in some way from the kidnapping of Russian experimental mind control test subjects and schizophrenic super spies. And indeed, they are allowing on their territory for the Chechen mob to operate under the auspices of the Paracelsius group's control and basically kidnap these Russian mental patients from secret psychiatric facilities, overt psychiatric facilities, and the streets, who then end up being auctioned in the West to private intelligence firms and even nation state intelligence agencies. So it's all very strange, this phenomenon of these Russian mental patients who are experimental test subjects and schizophrenic super spies. Indeed, you have to note that the Russian government doesn't actually care about ideology anymore. And perhaps there isn't actually a genuine conflict between the West and the Russian Federation. Indeed, perhaps there is no Cold War II at all. So it's all very strange to consider. As I stated, the Russian elites only care about money. They don't care about ideology anymore. So basically, communism is dead, which kind of like puts in the nails in the coffin of Christopher Story's theory that perestroika was a deception and that the Communist Party still run Russia. Indeed, there are certain truths to this theory, as the KGB structure is still in place. However, they do not care anymore about communism or the spread of communism. They only literally care about money. So they're not too concerned when their experimental test subjects and schizophrenic super spies are kidnapped by Paracelsius group proxies for auctioning and utilization in the Roundway experiment. So it's all very strange. Indeed, the Roundway experiment is located in a system of catacombs which branch out from beneath the old Roundway Hospital site, on which today stands the Green Lane Psychiatric Facility. Indeed, the cloakroom is still in existence. I have seen the cloakroom. Indeed, I was taken to the cloakroom during my incarceration in the Green Lane Psychiatric Facility. Indeed, the cloakroom is where above ground experimentation takes place, but there are chambers that lead into the catacombs in the cloakroom. So there is an overground Roundway experiment and an underground Roundway experiment. Indeed, I was never actually taken into the catacombs. All of my experimentation at Green Lane Psychiatric Facility was done above ground. However, I had heard rumors of the existence of the catacombs from a paranoid schizophrenic called Stephen in the Green Lane Psychiatric Facility in 2017, who taught me about the Asylum Keepers Guild, which was a concept I was actually unaware of at that time, despite having inklings about the DVD. However, I was unaware of the existence of the Asylum Keepers Guild, i.e. a psychiatric fraternity that runs all of the psychiatric system in the UK, the US, and Germany. So it's all very interesting. Indeed, the paranoid schizophrenic that I encountered, called Stephen, I encountered him in the psychiatric facility at Green Lane in the winter of 2017. He was a former British intelligence operative and schizophrenic super spy who had been programmed in the Project Aniseed program, and he was disposed of, i.e. eliminated, soon after he was discharged in the spring of 2018, and I believe this may be because of the information that he imparted to me Indeed, we were most probably being monitored, if not outright recorded, by Green Lane Psychiatric Facility staff on the orders of MI6 who run the mental hospital. So this information that he gleaned to me regarding the Asylum Keepers Guild could potentially be dangerous in the hands of myself, i.e. a Russian schizophrenic super spy. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, I'm technically an escaped Russian schizophrenic super spy from Project Sturm. So it's all very interesting to consider. I may or may not have been at Grenville Lodge. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, William Field was at Grenville Lodge, and I have memories of observing him there, which means my escape from the Voronezh secure psychiatric facility would have actually been in 2012 and not 2013. However, my Masonic mind control programmers have done such a good job on me that I've managed to forget the Russian language, so it's all very strange to consider indeed. However, I do experience certain emotions when I hear Russian being spoken, although I cannot understand it. So it's all very interesting to consider the fact that the Masonic mind control programmers of the Paracelsius group may well have kidnapped me after my escape from Voronezh Mental Hospital while I was in Belgrade and taken me to Grenville Lodge, where I replaced William Field. Indeed, I may have been at Grenville Lodge at the same time as William Field and had escaped from the Grenville Lodge experiment. Indeed, he was also being experimented on in Project Aniseed. So I've basically also myself been through Project Sturm, i.e. the Russian experiment in mind control, and Project Aniseed. So it's very strange to consider that I have been in mind control experimentation programs of both MI6 and the GRU. Indeed, I even have vague memories of being at Vladimirovka at some point, i.e. the experimental testing ground for alien communication of the Russian Air Force. So it's a bit of a strange saga indeed. Due to the amnesia that I suffer because of the Paracelsius group mind control programming of me, I cannot actually work out my real identity, so I do not know if I am actually William Field from Calm or his KGB body double with slightly different eyes. Indeed, I am tending towards the latter, and indeed, I believe I was born in a laboratory in St. Petersburg in 1990, but was brought up in a small Siberian town before I was transferred to the Minsk area for testing. And from then, I was transferred to Vladimirovka for psychic warfare experimentation and the attempt to contact extraterrestrial life, from which this mind control experiment I escaped and made my way to Vladikavkaz, where I murdered 2 Chechens, either of my own volition or on the orders of the GRU as part of a Manchurian candidate-style experiment, whereby the GRU were attempting to test whether they could utilize a schizophrenic super spy as a mind-controlled, hypno-programmed assassin. So it could be that I actually murdered these 2 Chechens as part of an experiment. From there, I was involuntarily committed to a Russian secure psychiatric facility in Voronezh, from which I proceeded to escape. And this was most probably in 2012, at the same time that William Field was at Grenville Lodge. And indeed, I have vague recollections of being bundled into the back of a van by masked figures who were most probably proxies of the Paracelsius group. And I also have memories of being at Grenville Lodge. It's interesting to consider that I was also a spice addict, as was William Field, so it's all very strange indeed. The Russian mental hospitals that I was in were proliferated with undercurrents of the spice trade. Indeed, there were many synthetic narcotics being smuggled into the mental hospitals in the Russian Federation. And indeed, I was involved partially in the distribution of this product. However, I don't know how I quite feel about that, but it's interesting to consider. Indeed, there is a Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst element running a lot of Russian psychiatry, so it's very strange. Indeed, the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst factions within the KGB have the same level of control over the psychiatric facilities in the Russian Federation as the MI6 networks do in the United Kingdom. And indeed, these Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst operations operate through mafia proxies. So it's all very strange to consider that Russia isn't really a nation. It's interconnected networks of mafias overseen by the octopus, i.e. the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst Mossad continuum operation. So it's all very interesting to consider that Russia is basically just a big criminal enterprise. And therefore, a lot of the mind control experimentation is actually done as proxy for the Western cryptocracy. Indeed, a lot of the mind control technology and the mind control experiments themselves that take place in the Russian Federation are actually patented by the Western intelligence services and their DVD overarching handlers, i.e. the octopus, this enormous criminal syndicate for organ harvesting, child trafficking, and the distribution of every narcotic product and patents of mind control experimentation. Indeed, there is a large body of Nazi psychiatrists involved with the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, and indeed these are basically known as the Asylum Keepers Guild, as delineated to me by the paranoid schizophrenic Stephen, who was disposed of by the British intelligence services for imparting this information to me. Indeed, these psychiatrists are very interested in the fracturing and splitting of the paranoid schizophrenic mind, which is basically a lot of the premise behind Project Aniseed, which would have been overseen by Nazi psychiatrists, as was the Soviet equivalent, which is now continuing in the Russian Federation, i.e. Project Sturm. It was overseen by Nazi psychiatrists. So there does seem to be an overarching unifying conspiracy theory, as much as I'm trying to avoid unifying conspiracy theories at the moment. The Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst Asylum Keepers Guild overarching conspiracy theory does seem to be quite prominent in this investigation. So make of that what you will. Indeed, the realization that I may be a KGB body double of William Field means there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, such as when was my microchip implanted in me? Indeed, it seems that my microchip is probably of DVD origin, so I was probably microchipped in my early teens at Vladimirovka. So it's all very interesting to note. However, due to the amnesia that the Paracelsius group implemented on me, I cannot remember much of my youth and teenage years in Russia at all, not even my early 20s. Indeed, my memories are only really vivid from the age of 22. So it's all very strange. And indeed, even my recollections of Grenville Lodge are quite hazy. I'm not sure if I was there or if I was not. However, all of my analysis of Grenville Lodge is 100% wholly and completely true. Indeed, Grenville Lodge is a Paracelsius Group headquarters and a Hellfire Club dominion. So it's all very strange what occurs there, and indeed, various networks of professors were conducting satanic ritual sacrifice ceremonies and utilizing occult ritualism to transplant the souls of the dead victims into the bodies of cats. So it's all very strange to consider. Indeed, William Field's observations of the schizophrenic cats on Thorazine are entirely valid. So it's all very strange. I have witnessed so many strange encounters over the years. I'm not fond of flying saucer theories, though I do believe there are experimental craft, especially in the Russian Federation around the Vladimirovka Air Base and in Britain around Salisbury Plain. Indeed, so very interesting to consider. I previously detailed the story of the fact that a Russian experimental spy plane, being remotely piloted, came down just outside of Warminster in 1994, and indeed there were two individuals on this craft, although they were not actually piloting the plane. They were being used as observers for some reason, and indeed they looked very similar to me, and these were Russian schizophrenic super spies. And after they exited the craft, they were arrested by Devizes police who were operating under some Ministry of Defense contract. Indeed, they were transported from the scene of the crash by Devizes police to a secure facility underground in Bristol. And after this, they were semi-lobotomized, as I have been several times, by British Paracelsius Group psychiatrists. Indeed, they were semi-lobotomized and forced to work for the Paracelsius Group, i.e. Royal Arch Freemasons, and they continue this day to operate as psychic spies for the Paracelsius Group, identifying and locating Paracelsius Group targets. The coordinates of these targets are then delivered to Masonic hitmen and triggermen, who then carry out the hits in the locations that have been identified by these Russian schizophrenic super spy psychic spies. So it's very interesting to consider that the British intelligence services and their Paracelsius Group, which is a sub-branch of the network, in inverted commas, are utilizing Russian schizophrenic super spies for their Masonic operations, which is really quite a sad state of affairs, as one of the major victims of the Paracelsius Group operations is the demographic of the Russian mental patient and the Russian schizophrenic super spy. So even the Project Aniseed program in the United Kingdom has Masonic overtones. Indeed, the Paracelsius Group, whose main dominion of operations is Eastern Europe and southwestern Russia, have a lot of influence over Project Aniseed due to the synthesis of British intelligence and Royal Arch Freemasonry. Indeed, the focus of the British intelligence services at the moment is the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and southwestern Russia. So it's always strange to consider that what would the majority of the paranoid schizophrenic super spies in the employ of the British intelligence services being white ethnically, they cannot really be positioned for Middle Eastern operations. Therefore, the focus of the utilization of the Project Aniseed paranoid schizophrenic super spies is on Eastern European and southwestern Russian affairs. And indeed, the Paracelsius Group have their main headquarters in southwestern Russia, in Rostov-on-the-Don, which interestingly has experienced a proliferation of maniac murder cult and Nordic resistance movement activity in recent years. And this is because this location contains several black sites of the British police and the Paracelsius group, who are mind control programming Russians to operate as part of the Gladio 4 agenda against the Russian state, which itself all seems to be a bit of a deception, as the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, who handle overarchingly the Paracelsius group, are utilizing the Russian state as a criminal enterprise. So it's interesting the dialectics that are at work here, what with the utilization of the Gladio 4 program and various post-Mujahideen networks, such as the Azov Battalion in eastern Ukraine, and the various networks of paramilitaries and mercenaries, both Russian and Ukrainian, who form the nucleus of a Gladio 4 operation. Indeed, it's all very strange to consider. Indeed, I'm not entirely sure what the overall agenda of the Western cryptocracies is in eastern Ukraine. However, I have previously theorized that they are operating a depopulationist agenda and wish to replace the local Slavic population, both Russian and Ukrainian heritage, with another ethnic group, potentially Khazars, who are being bred in underground laboratories for this very purpose. However, the details of this are a little bit sketchy, and you have to realize that a lot of what I talk about on this channel is very much mental patient folklore. So it's all very strange, and at the end of the day, it's all very interesting to consider indeed. I'm going to leave it there now. Thank you.